Hello, welcome back to another Spark Outbound Live. I'm Jonathan Sellers. Joining me today is Whitney Pressley, our Director of Digital Outreach. And today we're going to be talking about how to manage your outreach when you use multiple channels. So at Spark Outbound, if you're joining us for the first time, we discuss lead generation, digital marketing, content creation, SEO, digital advertising, really anything that revolves around driving more opportunities and more clients to your business. And if you enjoy this type of content, please subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and you'll get notified whenever we go live or post new content. So, as I mentioned, today we're talking specifically about when you're doing outreach for lead generation. So think LinkedIn or email outreach or cold calling on the phone, whatever the case may be. Um, how do you use multiple channels at the same time in one campaign? And essentially, why should you do that? So to get started, I do want to address that first question. So the why. Why is this important? And there's a few reasons why it's important. Some of them are kind of logical. Some of them are maybe more specific or technical. But in general, people have different communication preferences. People have access in different ways to their communication platforms. And so when you reach people on multiple platforms, you have the highest probability of reaching them and getting your message across and getting it in front of them. Something we talk about a lot that goes along with this is the need, like the rule of seven and things like this, which are common, just marketing philosophies around getting messages in front of people multiple times to get your point across, catch their attention, and make them take the action that you're hoping they will take. And so by reaching people on multiple platforms, you have that highest probability that you're going to land the message in front of them. You're going to hopefully get it in front of them in a channel that they, are open to or prefer receiving the message. And then through the ability to then use repetition and campaign, different campaign strategies, you can hopefully achieve that rule of seven or more, whatever the case may be, to get them to drive that action that you're hoping to go for. So that's all pretty basic, pretty common sense. Basically at the end of the day, you're just getting the chance to reach people where they want to receive your message and get it in front of them until they, if they are, genuinely the correct target that you should be targeting and they have a need, that they will eventually take you up on your offer. So I wanted to bring Whitney in because I wanted to just kind of go from there. So if we understand that's why you should use multiple channels, I wanted to get Whitney to give us a little bit of an overview of how you actually do it and maybe some basic examples. So like let's leave cold calling out on the phone. But Whitney, why don't you talk about like some basic examples of how you would use email and LinkedIn together?
Sure. One example is that we designed a campaign for one of our clients that starts with a cold email sequence. So we have it's like introducing themselves. Here's a little bit about what we do, but it's very like the messaging is very conversational and approachable. Um, but what happens is we have that sending platform, and then we have a system set up to where we use triggers, some kind of software for to set up some triggers that when someone opens one of those emails, they read the subject line and sorry, my dog. um, they read the subject line, it's interesting to them, and they decide that they want to open it, then, that's at least some type of, interest, some type of positive response, if you will. But Then say the trigger for this campaign is opening the email. So when someone opens the email, indicates some level of interest, then we have it set up to where that person will then receive a message from the same client, same person, um, on LinkedIn. Say it's a connection request, or maybe if they're in the same network or group or something. But basically, we try to find common ground with that person, of course, making for a good match, and be approachable and make it as personal as possible, personalized as possible. Um, yeah. So then that's I guess, a simple example, but you could get super creative, make super complex integrated campaigns if you wanted. But what we're finding is that the person who's receiving the message isn't getting just 7, 8, 9 emails. The touches are varied in the channels. So if that person is not someone who frequently checks email, then, and they might be on LinkedIn, then of course that kind of like speeds up the response time if they're going to.
Exactly. And so I guess so if I'm summarizing that, so basically it it's an email goes out, person opens the email, that opening triggers, and we use Zapier, however you pronounce it. So we trigger that the person then receives a connection request, then they accept the connection request, and then they receive following messages on LinkedIn, and there's potential they receive following emails as well. And so those, as Whitney mentioned, can be also based off triggers. So based off of did respond, did not respond, based off clicked a link in the one of the messages, and then now they go back to another message, and so on and so forth. But it's really the point is just the general concept around um, understanding that yes, I guess the importance of the trigger piece is to understand that you don't want to keep sending somebody a message on the other platform if they've already said no on the first platform, or they've already said yes on the first platform. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to just to build a campaign on both platforms, put the person in both campaigns, they're running simultaneously and independently, because then you could sound crazy, right? So you could have a conversation with somebody via email, and then if it's not based off triggers, or it's not managed, then you could send them another email, another message on LinkedIn, which completely makes no sense based off the conversation that you've had with them via email, or vice versa. So I think the triggers are really important, and just understanding that what I just said. So understanding that you don't want to do, uh, you don't want to send messages where it does not make sense. So the purpose of this is really just to get in front of the person at the right time and make sure that they are getting your message, and then to not necessarily um, bother them if once you have a resolution or have something moving forward from one of the channels or the other. So I would say going beyond that. So how do you manage it? So how do you make sure you don't just do what I just said and send somebody a message that makes no sense based off of uh, a response that already happened or something like that? So Whitney, why don't you talk about a little bit about so let's just say beyond the triggers. So yes, we've set up the triggers, and the triggers are designed to not do that necessarily. So essentially, messages should only happen appropriately. But beyond that, how do we manage it? How does our team manage it? And what are some things we do in situations where um, I guess if we're thinking even from the setup phase, like what are the things we need to make sure we have to enable the campaign to run, and then what do we do during the process to manage it and make sure that we're not having mistakes happen.
That's a lot of questions.
So let's start with the first one. So what are the things we need to be able to do this?
So, in order to, well, at a basic level, in order to build, a successful campaign, of course, you have your messaging or your copy. And what we do to make sure that we don't say some ineffective message for the client is, we go through a process of researching the client and their business. We have a questionnaire. We are very collaborative with the clients during onboarding and after. And basically, our focus is continuous improvement. So it just means, um, I think that's like a key part of building an effective campaign. But so you would have the copy that's um, it has been revised to the client's voice. So you're saying what they want to, the message is clear. You of course you need your audience. Um, and for us, the same thing. We go through a whole interview process, researching the client's audiences and what their goals are and all of this. Um, so we have a very targeted audience, and then of course you need a way to send out um, your outreach. So there's different platforms, that we use different, uh, yeah, different software, different platforms that we use to be able to build the campaigns. There's different things like uh, changing timing, the cadence of um, the campaign or the sending part. Um, uh, Changing like time zones. I'm trying to think all of these things, but it's very, customizable. So basically, all of those things we take a lot of time to do and collaborate with the client to figure out like what's, right for them. And our coordinators then manage manually the responses. So then they evaluate what the response sentiment is it effective, is it are people thinking we're saying what we mean, things like that. And so um yeah, that's a lot of how we try to manage all the responses and make them more effective.
Yeah, and then be from to carry on from that last thing you just said, and then so if our coordinators are seeing that somebody has responded in one place, we're double checking to make sure that um, does what's left in the other channel's campaign make sense to from the response, right? So if we're looking and see somebody respond to an email in a certain way, then we can check the LinkedIn campaign that's remaining. We can see where that person is in the LinkedIn campaign. And if it doesn't make sense to continue sending the messages that are planned, um, then we don't send those because they've already come to a resolution point, whether it's positive or negative, and maybe we put them into like some type of follow-up campaign, one way or the other. Maybe we pause the campaign. It just depends on what the situation is. But yeah, I think that is key that we're following the sentiment to figure out what needs to happen next. So there's a bit of technology involved and a bit of human logic and human interaction involved to make this work. But it also is all about the setup. So there's the strategy and the setup and the technology components that go into that. There's making sure we have the correct data fields as well. So we have to have email addresses that are accurate. We have to have LinkedIn profile URLs, for instance. It could be other things, like if you do want to incorporate calling and have your salesperson or yourself call at a certain part of the sequence, then you would need a phone number, maybe direct phone number, or in less and less cases nowadays, the office phone number. So, but yeah, so I think that's it. I mean, it's not as simple as just running an either or campaign. There's more setup and more strategy that goes into it, more just like thinking through things and putting yourself in the recipient's seat and making sure that you're not um, overbearing, making sure that you're communicating clearly. But at the end of the day, it does impact your overall success of campaigns, especially in your response rate area. So, with any outreach campaign, it doesn't mean that you make a change and you're going to be more successful in the sense that you sell more or things like that, because your offer obviously dictates that more than anything else, what you're selling, what you're offering. Um, but you can find out more quickly potentially that people don't like your offer, right? And so you need to change your offer because you get a lot more no's or a lot even contextual feedback around why people aren't interested in your offer, and then you can make changes to address that. So um, yeah, I think that's really it. This is a quick live. A lot of times our lives are usually somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour, but this one is a pretty simple concept. I think if you want to set up a campaign like this, want help setting up a campaign, we're happy to discuss that with you. The best way to talk about something like that is to go to our website, sparkoutbound.com, and schedule a consultation call. You'll get one of our leadership team, either myself, Whitney, or Saman, um, to go through and talk about your specific situation, and if what we can do is right for you. Um, Otherwise, if you stuck with us now, please subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you'll get notified when we do go live again. We go live usually every Thursday. Um, and next week we'll be bringing another digital marketing lead generation related topic to you. We hope you'll join us then. And I just want to thank Whitney again for being here today and going through some of the experiences she's had with these type of campaigns with our clients. And um, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again soon. Have a good week.